Welcome to Lotus Heart Teaching. Have you ever found yourself stuck in a conversation, trying to defend yourself, others disrespect you, constantly challenging your boundaries? Maybe you've been interrupted, belittled, or even judged, and your first instinct was to fight back, explain, or just let it slide to avoid confrontation. But what if I told you that the most powerful response isn't a word at all? What if silence, confidence, and the ability to set boundaries could shift the entire dynamic, leaving the other person speechless and you standing tall in your worth? Today, we're diving deep into 5 powerful practices from Buddhist philosophy that will help you handle disrespect with grace and inner strength. You'll discover how the silent stare can break the cycle of drama, how embracing silence can reclaim your peace, and why letting go of explanations can set you free from the approval of others. We'll explore how to keep your distance from toxic relationships and protect your emotional energy, and most importantly, how to hold your head high, no matter what others throw your way. Sound intriguing? Stick around, because the tools we're about to explore will not only shift how you react to negativity, but will also transform how you see yourself. Are you ready to stop letting others dictate your worth and start living on your terms? Let's dive into these 5 life-changing practices. 1. Embrace the silent stare, the power of mindful presence. Imagine a scenario. You're in the middle of a heated meeting. A colleague keeps interrupting you, cutting you off mid-sentence, making passive-aggressive comments. Your immediate impulse is to snap back, to defend yourself, to fight for your words. But what if instead of getting drawn into the drama, you simply stared? Not in anger, not in a show of power, but with an unwavering calm, a mindful presence that speaks volumes without saying a word. The impact? Striking. This is the essence of the silent stare from a Buddhist perspective. The practice isn't about controlling others or asserting dominance. It's about asserting your inner peace. When we choose to remain grounded and present, we stop feeding the cycle of disrespect. We stop reacting impulsively. Instead of getting tangled in an emotional struggle, we give ourselves the freedom to choose a response grounded in mindfulness. You might be thinking, what happens if the person keeps pushing? Well, that's where the magic of mindfulness comes in. The silent stare has an almost unsettling power. It's not aggressive, but it carries a weight that forces the other person to confront their behavior. By simply not reacting, you've essentially become a mirror, reflecting their rudeness at them. The discomfort they feel isn't just because you're not engaging, but because they've been stripped of their power to provoke you. The tables have turned, and they're the ones left scrambling for a response. In Buddhist practice, there's a teaching on right mindfulness, being aware of your thoughts, emotions, and reactions without attachment. The silent stare perfectly embodies this concept. It allows you to observe the situation without getting emotionally entangled. When you do not react, you create space for yourself and for the other person. This moment of stillness disrupts their attempt to drag you into their emotional drama, and in that brief pause, you reassert control over the situation without uttering a single word. Now, think about the internal power you gain when you decide not to react. In a world that thrives on instant responses and emotional outbursts, choosing silence creates a dramatic contrast. It's like stepping off the emotional roller coaster that disrespect attempts to pull you onto. Instead of letting your emotions be triggered, you hold your ground. This simple shift is transformative, not only for the situation, but also for you. But here's the most powerful part of the silent stare. It's not just about showing the other person their rudeness. It's about showing yourself that you are in control. The moment you refuse to react, you strengthen your sense of self-worth. You send a message to your mind. I am unshakable. This isn't about arrogance, but about self-respect. Your peace is more important than any outside disturbance. What happens next? The person may falter. They may start to feel awkward. That's when the shift occurs. They realize they've lost their ability to provoke you, and what follows is often a change in their behavior. They may stop interrupting, or worse, they might become the one who apologizes for their actions. Think about the quiet power in that. It's not an external power, but an internal strength that doesn't require you to raise your voice or argue. The silent stare is a nonverbal no that speaks louder than words, drawing boundaries without conflict. It's a skill that can be learned, practiced, and refined. The key takeaway here? You don't need to react to disrespect. By choosing mindfulness, you reclaim control over your emotional state and assert your worth in a situation. You don't need to feed the drama. Sometimes, the most powerful statement you can make is simply by being present and not engaging. 2. Embrace silence as your answer. The wisdom of non-reactivity. What if the most powerful thing you could do in the face of disrespect wasn't to shout back, defend yourself, or explain your actions, but simply to remain silent? Imagine this. You're in a meeting, and a colleague throws a snide remark about your work or appearance. The usual impulse is to fight back, to prove them wrong, right? But what if instead of reacting, you just pause, breathe, and let silence fill the room? This is the heart of Buddhist wisdom, the practice of non-reactivity. Silence, often underestimated, becomes the most profound response. It's not passive, it's a conscious, deliberate choice that challenges the very foundation of the conflict. By remaining silent, you break free from the cycle of emotional reactivity, the chain of dependent origination the Buddha warned against. When you refuse to engage in their drama, you not only deny them the emotional response they're seeking, but also protect your peace. Now, here's where the plot thickens. What happens in that silence? The room grows tense. The disrespectful person, expecting a reaction, is left with their words hanging in the air. The power dynamics shift. And here's the kicker. Often, it's not the words themselves that hold power, it's the energy behind them. When you don't react, you take the wind out of their sails, rendering them powerless. They may fumble, feel awkward, or even backpedal. The real beauty of silence lies in its ability to turn the situation on its head. When you choose peace over conflict, you remind yourself, and others, that your dignity is not for sale. In that moment, your silence speaks louder than any retort could. It's a statement that says, I am not your emotional puppet. By embracing silence, you regain control, not just of the conversation, but of your emotional state, too. 3. Stop explaining your choices. The practice of letting go of attachments. Picture this. You've just made a bold decision. Maybe you've chosen an unconventional career path, or maybe you've turned down a stable job offer to pursue a passion project. As soon as people find out, the questions start rolling in. Why would you do that? How can you be sure it will work? It's natural to feel compelled to explain yourself, to offer reasons and justifications. But here's the twist. What if the key to your freedom, to your peace, was to stop explaining altogether? This is where Buddhism offers a game-changing perspective. At its core, Buddhism teaches us to let go of attachments, not just to material things, but to the approval and validation of others. That constant need to explain our decisions is rooted in the ego, in that part of us that desperately seeks to be understood, accepted, and validated. But the moment we release that need, we unlock a profound sense of inner peace and freedom. Now, let's pause and consider the impact of this shift. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop engaging in the cycle of self-doubt. You no longer depend on others' opinions to validate your choices. Instead, you embrace the deep truth that your decisions are your own and don't require anyone else's approval. This might sound simple, but it's incredibly liberating. Imagine you're at a social gathering, and someone asks, "Why did you leave that stable job? What's your plan?" Instead of launching into a long explanation, you calmly respond, "Because it felt right for me." That's it. No justification, no backpedaling. The power of that statement is staggering. In that one moment, you not only take back your power, but you also show others that your decisions are anchored in your self-awareness. There's no room for doubt or judgment because you're secure in your truth. What happens next? The room might fall silent for a moment. They weren't expecting such a clear, unapologetic response. They were prepared for a justification, a weak attempt at defending your choices. But by letting go of the need to explain, you send a message that resonates far deeper than any words could. You've just redefined your boundaries, asserting that your life and your choices are not up for debate. In Buddhism, this practice of letting go of attachments is not just about freeing yourself from others' opinions. It's a direct route to detachment from the ego, the part of us that constantly needs to prove worth. When you stop justifying yourself, you stop feeding that part of your mind that thrives on external validation. The beauty of this practice is that it leads you back to your true self, unfazed, unshaken, and untethered from the need for approval. 4. Keep your distance. The importance of boundaries in cultivating inner peace. Imagine this. You're constantly surrounded by negativity. It's not a one-time incident, but a consistent pattern. A toxic friend, a colleague who constantly undermines you, or a family member whose every comment feels like a jab. At first, you tell yourself, "It's no big deal, I can handle it." But soon, the negativity seeps in, draining your energy, affecting your mood, and slowly chipping away at your peace. What do you do then? This is where the Buddhist teaching of non-attachment and right association becomes a game changer. The Buddha emphasized the importance of surrounding ourselves with those who uplift us, who support our spiritual growth, and who encourage our inner peace. So, when someone repeatedly disrespects you, it's not only okay to create distance, it's necessary for your well-being. But here's the twist. Creating distance isn't about revenge or animosity. It's not about cutting people off in anger. It's about protecting your peace. It's a form of self-care, and in the process, it becomes an act of profound wisdom. The beauty of this practice lies in its simplicity. We stop trying to please everyone, and instead, focus on our own mental and emotional health. You are not responsible for the negativity that others bring into your life. What you are responsible for is the energy you allow to enter your space. Now, think about this. How often have we justified staying close to people who drain us? It's easy to say, "Oh, they've been my friend for years," or "their family." But what if the cost of maintaining that relationship is too high? What if it's at the expense of your peace, your joy, and your energy? Consider a friendship where you've been repeatedly belittled, with constant jabs disguised as jokes or criticisms. At first, you brush it off, but as time passes, it starts to feel like a weight you carry around. The more you stay, the more you realize the toll it's taking on your spirit. This is when the boundary setting, the creating of distance, becomes necessary. It's not about cutting the person off in anger. It's about clearing space in your life for healthier, more supportive relationships. The power of distance is undeniable. When you create that space, you not only protect your peace, but also open the door to relationships that foster your growth and happiness. And this, ultimately, is the heart of the Buddhist concept of right livelihood, living in a way that promotes harmony, respect, and inner tranquility in all aspects of life, including your relationships. 5. Hold your head high. The confidence of self-respect. What if the most powerful response to criticism wasn't fighting back or justifying yourself, but simply standing tall, unshaken by the words of others? Imagine being in a public setting, surrounded by a crowd, and someone continuously critiques you, throwing insults your way. The common instinct is to shrink, to avoid confrontation, to feel the weight of their words dragging you down. But what if instead of cowering, you chose to hold your head high, unbothered by their negativity? This is the essence of self-respect in Buddhist philosophy. But here's the twist. It's not about inflated pride or arrogance. It's not about feeling superior to others. It's about recognizing your inherent worth and understanding that, as human beings, we deserve kindness, love, and respect simply because we exist. This deep-rooted self-awareness is what Buddhism calls intrinsic worth, the recognition that our value is not tied to external validation or the approval of others. When we hold our heads high, we are quietly affirming this truth. But here's the gripping question. What happens when you face those insults and remain calm and centered? Does it feel like a loss of power, or is it the greatest show of strength you could display? In a world where people often seek validation through external sources, whether it's likes, comments, or the approval of others, the idea of standing firm in our worth without needing to explain or defend ourselves is incredibly powerful. When you hold your head high, you're not reacting to others' judgments or criticisms. You are creating an inner fortress, a sanctuary that no one else can penetrate. It's not about arrogance or dismissing others, but about creating a boundary that protects your peace. Imagine this. You're at a social gathering, and someone repeatedly makes biting remarks about your appearance or your accomplishments. Most people would cringe, shrink, or try to justify themselves. But you, standing tall, eyes forward, choose to remain unaffected. What happens next? The power shifts. Their insults, which were once designed to provoke a reaction, no longer have the desired effect. Your calm, composed demeanor acts like a shield, and you become the one in control. This isn't about forcing yourself to smile through the pain or pretending that nothing bothers you. Instead, it's about being at peace with who you are, regardless of how others treat you. The Buddhist teaching of right mindfulness aligns perfectly with this idea, being aware of your thoughts, emotions, and reactions without allowing them to be influenced by external circumstances. So here's the real hook. How often do we let the opinions of others dictate how we feel about ourselves? What if, instead of lowering our gaze in the face of criticism, we stood tall in our worth, affirming our value without the need for validation from others? This simple shift, holding your head high, can be a transformative practice that not only changes how others see you, but, more importantly, how you see yourself. It's an embodiment of self-respect that cannot be shaken, no matter how loud the external noise becomes. And there you have it, 5 transformative practices that can completely change how you handle disrespect and negativity in your life. From the power of the silent stare to embracing the wisdom of silence, you now have the tools to shift the energy around you and take back control. Letting go of the need to explain yourself, creating healthy boundaries, and holding your head high aren't just strategies. They are profound acts of self-respect and inner peace. Now it's your turn. How will you start applying these powerful practices today? Will you embrace silence when someone disrespects you? Or finally stop explaining your choices to those who don't value your decisions? Will you create distance from the toxic relationships that drain your energy, or hold your head high, grounded in your self-worth, no matter what others say? I challenge you to take action. Choose one of these practices and apply it to your life. And remember, your worth is not determined by anyone else but you. Stay true to your path, protect your peace, and always walk with your head held high. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who might need to hear these empowering teachings. Thank you for joining me at Lotus Heart Teaching. Until next time, may your journey be filled with inner strength, peace, and unshakable self-respect.